Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Well, Carl Spreedy's here, author of the Decide Your Destiny book and custodian of the Decide Your Destiny. Angela Talent, Poems from a Lost Soul. How you going, Angela?
I'm doing good. You know, I am really loving the color of the blue sky behind you. And the clouds. It just looks so beautiful.
Nice. It was supposed to be another overcast day, but it's melting through.
You broke up for a second. What was that?
Nice. Very, very nice over here. Can't complain.
Yeah, so you're having fun. That's what's important. Now, we had some we did the show briefly yesterday, and we're doing it again today because you were on you're traveling, so you're on the
Better.
phone, yeah?
Yeah, the internet's a little bit better today, so we just thought and yeah, do the show yesterday. We did the episode all about lose yourself to truly find yourself. So, and if you're tuning for the first time, Angela and myself do these episodes every Friday, which is today. So exciting! The podcast is out there. First episode, and yeah, we've just been jumping on it every Friday, basically following the 22 chapters of, and Angela creates a poem for every single episode.
Yeah, so I did not create a new poem for our posting today, or our follow-up conversation. I don't know, but we're still, what better topic to have than lose yourself to find yourself, because like even me with my disability, I feel like it was like the universe said, hey, you better lose yourself. You're gonna lose yourself. Don't even, there's no choice. You're gonna lose yourself to find yourself.
So you get well, what does it mean to you to lose yourself to find yourself?
So I think for me, there's this idea of, I think I know who I am. And then maybe things change or something happens, like at least that's for me. My disability came on, and now all of a sudden I didn't know who I was, what I was doing, where I stood in the world. I wasn't sure about if I had social value, things like that, because of the disability. So but I think I had to lose myself to find out who I now was, which was definitely, even like, I try to remember to in these moments that right this minute I might be a different person in a moment, because that's how long it took for my disability to come on. 1 minute I was fine, the next minute I was not fine.
It's so true. Like in terms of the change in the transformation, you, I guess, didn't have value anymore. What was the kind of big thing just that you were doing?
Well, what was I doing at the time when my disability came on? Was that the question?
No, what made you think that you might not be valuable to society?
Yeah. So I was let go from work because my hands didn't work right, and a few months later, my mom, my uncle died, and then a few months after that, my mom told me she was moving to Texas. So all of a sudden, I found myself pretty much alone. I felt alone, whether I wasn't alone because I knew people and I had friends and things like that, but I think there's this, like, I almost had to be alone and feel that pain because then I had to take responsibility for myself and step out of that. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah. Was it like, was it also a pressure of like a stigma, or did that make you kind of feel not as valuable as well?
I think there was probably some subconscious bias there. that I was unaware of that said if I had a disability, the family I grew up in was always do, do, do. And when you can do and you can get to the top of the food chain, well, not food chain, but you make good money, you do this or that, then you have value. So there wasn't value for what if you couldn't do that? What if that just wasn't your path? And I think that was sad that I didn't even know that I had that bias because I had friends with disabilities and things like that. And I even had a coach with who had polio and in softball. So he would throw the ball up with one hand and then swing the bat with the same hand. And then he also walked with a crutch. So I knew that people were capable, but I think because of the belief, it was more painful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's through family and your environment, isn't it, that you kind of have those beliefs of how to do life.
Yeah. The other thing that came to mind just now as you were speaking, which was, I actually worked in the medical field at the time too. So I think that instead of them helping me to find my way, it became kind of different, and
Wow.
if the medical field couldn't help me figure it out, then who was gonna help me figure it out?
Yourself, isn't it? That's what I've had a similar experience. It's like, if these people who are in this situation, they're supposed to have the answers and they don't have the answers, well, crap, where do I go next? And that's what I think a lot of it's like, it out, don't you? Would you say that was your journey? It had to be you figuring it out?
That was probably the beginning of the journey, and then I still crashed even deeper, I think. I put on significant I was dealing with chronic pain, and the things that come with chronic pain are things like depression, anxiety, insomnia, and um, you know,
Being angry.
the anger anger at not, I came across a
Yeah.
post a couple weeks ago, one of those reminder posts, it was just after let's see, mom had already moved, so maybe I'm a year into my disability, and I'm talking with my grandma, and she challenged me to fold one load of laundry. Well, it took like 2 hours or something like that to fold a load of laundry, and then I was in a tremendous amount of pain. I was miserable, but I accomplished it. So what was really neat was
Wow.
finding out that grandma, and I loved that I learned this early on that, as we age and lose capacity, that's what it felt like but I was 39. So now I have a whole different perspective with my friends and things that are much older than me because I can have empathy for them and compassion for where they're at.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have known that if I wouldn't have lost myself.
Well, let's hear some of your lovely poems because I don't know if you would have, been a poet, even though you know it.
Well, hang on just a second. Let me open it up. So I'm just going to use the same one from yesterday, which is as you know, I love this one. I think Ward even responded on
Yeah.
our show yesterday, which was a blessing. It's called Opportunity, and it goes, "What happens in that wild, chaotic part of life? How do you show up? How much do you learn from the problem, the challenge, the struggle, the failure, which is, dare I say, opportunity? Now, this is what I was created for." And you want it again, like normal? What happens in that wild, chaotic part of life? How do you show up? How much do you learn from the problem, the challenge, the struggle, the failure, which is, dare I say, opportunity. Now this is what I was created for.
Love it.
I
Love it. There's so much power in poems.
Well, it was an empowering chapter. I mean, this is, I literally go into the chapter and I read it again, sometimes more than once. And I really try to connect with what is it that you're trying to say, and I love that we've had this opportunity and we decided to do this show
Yeah.
because now I'm even having a different way of going, I still read and read, but I might be like, "Oh, I want that word," and I want that word, and I want that's important. So
That's like when you say the poem the second time a bit differently, you know, even though, you know, like, and that's the thing. Like second, we're not, like you said, we're not who we were. We're changing. With of our environment or our upbringing or a thought coming back to us constantly. That repetition is important to sometimes keep us on course. And like, it's like when you read something, like I'm sure lots of people have had that experience, but you read a book many years later again and you go, wow, I'm seeing so many different things. Did they write that the first time? Thing? But you just couldn't see that. You couldn't, it's like, you couldn't high enough, like you couldn't receive. It's like that thing of message. Did I really send it? Like, but did it get received? That's the thing. And
yeah.
really receive a certain amount at certain periods of your life. And I think the big part of this chapter was that, not like saying you should be, because we've all felt that lost feeling. You come in, out of the medical field and kind of having to deal with this new situations. You get a phone call that you didn't want to get. Like these situations, like will quickly on this planet, and the point of losing yourself, it's like you taking control and command of the situation, and saying, "Let me go lose myself in of my art, my work, my creativity. Let me go lose myself in a book, in an activity, a hobby. Let me go lose myself in being charitable." And it's like no longer, sitting down and complaining back and forth and blah 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 blah. It's no longer doing that. It's going out and actually and creating something in your universe and doing something about it. I think part of the world that I'm in right now, and the reason I'm doing it on the phone and we're doing it again is because of the internet. Basically, I'm in Gold Coast, and I was here 10 years ago. I came up here after, as we call it, school break, and I found myself here, and because it was just, you're in that zone of following the herd, following whatever, going out and drinking, and that sort of stuff, and not really, or intention or anything productive, or doing what your environment tells you to do, like called off your tree, which in Australian it's like, get off your tree, so your environment kind of commands you to do, or what your school environment says, okay, you've got to go away to school. But you don't necessarily have to do that. I know people that went away with their family overseas, did something different after they left school. So I think that's really, really what it's realizing, where you can get lost in life, and then indulge yourself in your destiny, in you deciding what you want to do, in you taking authority over your life, and going, wow, like now I got into the gym, now I did this, now I did that, now I'm so crazy with my macros and my nutrients and everything with my diet, and like that's what I'm talking about. getting really passionate in productive things that are good for you. You know.
Yeah. Well, and even as you're talking about artists, or there were a couple of things you listed off, go and lose yourself in these things. And I think you even maybe said hiking. And I had watched The Climb, where they're rock climbing. And, I'm thinking how much of that is curiosity, like that curiosity. And I talked about this a little yesterday, and how much of it is that like, I wonder if I'm gonna make it. I wonder if I'm gonna make it this time. I wonder what's gonna happen this time. And then just being like totally okay with what shows up.
Childlike curiosity.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, I think that might really be. Huh? You broke up.
Oh no. I said you were.
I think I missed the last part.
That's right. Keep going. Keep going.
We were doing pretty good, but now it's like all choppy.
Keep going.
Okay. So I knew, I mean, I think we ended at childlike curiosity. It's so important, I think, to, especially when in that alone place, because it's so easy to feel alone. And then what happens is I will start driving it back and going, oh, well, then I need to stay in my house, or nobody loves me, or nobody cares about me, or I go out. And then what happens is our brains literally will start looking to validate what that feeling is. So then maybe somebody will look our way, and we're going to assign a story to it. And we're going to start predicting, oh, they're talking about us. They're doing this, they're doing that. And that sets up like the brain's predictive power, right? So now all of a sudden the brain starts predicting it, and then we're stuck in our homes or in our houses, or even in bed, right? Because we think we're alone. And instead of taking that, being curious, continuing to stay curious, like, how do I know that's what that person was talking about? I have no idea, right? Like, how do I know that they're doing that? I have no idea. The reality of it is, unless I go check in with them, I'm not going to know. And so I just want to stay with that too. Like, I think that's why curiosity and surprise is so important. And I'm trying to remember the homework that we talked about, staying curious and surprised. And then it was go out and lose yourself. So Kyle sent me a little message. He said, since I'm breaking up, will you please? And absolutely. So, the reality of it is, go out there, take a risk, go for a walk. I mean, heck, I'm learning about earthing right now. So go stand in the wet grass, like, go ground yourself. Just do something different today. Maybe that different thing is, maybe one way is brush your teeth differently, right? Comb your hair with a different arm. I just do something to lose that sense of, I am absolutely and only will ever be this person, so that you can become who you're meant to be. Did I hit it? I hit it. And we're almost at our 20. So did you want to try for some last words before we go?
Well, just wanted to totally agree. Get out there, get out amongst it, and when you get lost in your own thoughts and lost in your own sort of current situation, get lost in the world. Rather go get lost in the world, get lost in the creativity, get lost in travel. I mean, I've been up in this area before, and I know what it's like. It's a little bit. It's got its ways about it. This going, go to the beach, go swim, just have a look at the buildings, just get an experience of it, and just to be able to go and experience, I think that's a really important part of being a spiritual being, is not having their mind and their beliefs and their ways about them, and then they can't really let loose. I was out the other night and we didn't have any drink, and then there was this thing where you got this camera and it circles you, and the more dance moves you do, the better it looks. So expressive. I'm doing the same thing, and losing, not necessarily needing a drug to take you there, because you might, it stays there, for a long time. So I think become more expressive, more free as a being, rather than needing all these prompts. We need to be prompted to do things in life. Do the exercise, find out what you want to do. Maybe it's bungee jumping, maybe it's hike, maybe it's, I don't know what. Go find something that you can just really sink your teeth in.
Yeah, that's so true. There's even a really, well, on Netflix, there's lots of stuff, but I want to say there's a humankind documentary type thing where it talks about some of those things. Like one lady became she's missing the bottom half of her leg, and she's running through the desert, things like that.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. So it's sometimes we just got to push and what can we do? If we don't try, we don't know, I can think I know, but is that the same as knowing?
Yeah. And you find your human spirit. You find, I think the strive, the dream should be your full potential, and you find that, getting stuck in, losing yourself in a certain process. What could I do? Because that's that childlike curiosity. What more could I do? What else could I do? What else can I climb? And we forget that.
Yeah.
I think is that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we are at time for today. We've got Kyle Spreedes, author of Decide Your Destiny, custodian of the Decide Your Destiny movement. And I'm Angela Talent, author of Poems from a Lost Soul and host of the Relatively Damaged podcast. This is the Destiny of Your Soul, and we'll see you next week, unless we decide to do another one before that. So thanks for joining, and we'll see you later.